ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नित्यानंद नमस्तुभ्यं प्रेमानंदप्रदायिने कलो कल्मषनाशाय जानवापते नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरतुसे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So we are discussing from chapter 2nd, text 62. So this verse we discussed yesterday uh, in great detail. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसा सङ्गस्तेषु उपजायते संगात् संजायते कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So we discussed this. When a person simply focuses on objects of the senses with regards to enjoyment of the senses, sense gratification, then because of such contemplation, one develops attachment for sense objects, and from there, lust develops, and then lust ultimately leads one towards anger or frustration, or you can say miseries. This is the cause of one's getting entangled into Maya. Now, generally, in this material existence, anybody looks at external means the enjoyment uh, in certain objects of the senses. And because of this tendency to enjoy, to get sense enjoyment, one is trapped and then he slips down from the path of devotional service. So we discussed this, we read the purport also that this contemplation is so powerful. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the world, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. The influence of sense objects are so great that even demigods are also entangled into it. What to speak of uh, humanly personality? One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. Um, but if somebody is absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then for him there is no possibility of getting agitated because of objects of the senses. Just like Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, and he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. And when the same Maya Devi, Durga Devi, Parvati, she allured Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is also a great means Dhira, great one of the greatest sober personality in this material existence. But there was once a time when Parvati agitated him for sin's pleasure. So he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. But on the other hand, Haridas Thakur, because he was fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, he couldn't be, yeah, he allured by the incarnation of Mayadevi. So, as illustrated in the above-mentioned verse of Sri Yamunachar, in the previous verse we discussed, Sri Yamunachar was a spiritual master of Sri Ramanujacharya. So, he was a very sincere devotee of the Lord. His all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be, in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires. So, uh, nobody can artificially repress the senses, means control the senses. Uh, so, however powerful one may be in controlling the senses, but he will surely fail because the slightest thought of sense pleasure agitates the mind, and one is forced to undergo the sense gratificatory activity. But if one is situated in complete Krishna consciousness, he can overcome it. So, if we at all desire to become free from the trap of Maya, Maya's traps are available everywhere. you know, Just like the rat, the trap of a rat, trap for a rat. Uh, so, rat, when she is very eager to eat, and she just goes inside the trap, and the trap is just shut down. So similarly, in this material existence, all these five senses, uh, it has a trap, and especially this sex enjoyment is the greatest trap for, especially for transcendentalists who desires to advance in spiritual life. This is the greatest trap. Once one is trapped in this sense pleasure, it becomes very difficult for him to make any tangible spiritual progress. So in this way, this kamat krodho vijayate. Next, in today's verse, Lord Krishna explains, krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhrama, smriti bhramshad buddhinaso, buddhinasat pranashyati. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, where anger, kamat krodho vijayate. These are 8 steps towards destruction, and it automatically happens one by one. It starts from dhyayato, contemplation upon objects of the senses, and then automatically one by one, it is just like in assembly line. The product is one by one, it is automatically assembled. Similarly, if one doesn't stop this contemplation of sense object at the level of mind, then one cannot, control it, and eventually it goes on and on. The next step is attachment is generated, and then lust, and then from lust, anger, frustration, and from such anger, krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammoha means complete bewilderment, perfect illusion. Sammoha means perfect illusion. What is the meaning of perfect illusion? Meaning of perfect illusion is that the person becomes convinced that this is good. The so-called the person becomes convinced, and he thinks that he thinks lust to be love. That is sammoha, perfect illusion. And from such sammohat smriti vibhrama, he loses his real memory. Our real memory is that we are Krishna's part and parcel. We are Krishna's servant, and we are meant to serve and love Krishna. But because of sammoha, or because of this perfect illusion, thinking or accepting a lust to be loved, when in this way the person becomes bewildered. So his memory is lost. He is practically completely bewildered. Memory is lost. He cannot understand his real goal of life. Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. Prahlad Maharaj says, Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu durasaya ye bahirarthamanina andha yathandharupagiyamanaste apiyan tantramurudam nibaddha मतिर्न कृष्णे परतो सतो वा मिथो अभिपद्येत ग्रह प्रताना अदान्त गोभिर्विशतां तमिष्टं पुनः पुनश्चर्विता चर्वणानाम्. Okay, that this because of being unable to control his mind and senses, the person uh, loses all his memory and forgets his real goal of life and makes temporary material goals of this material existence, illusory goals to be his real goal. That is the stage of Vibhrama. Smriti Vibhrama means he is bewildered, his memory is lost. That means he forgets his real goal of life, which is shelter of Lord Krishna's lotus feet, service to Krishna, and he accepts illusory goals of this material world to be his real goal. And Smriti Bhramshat, from the bewilderment of memory, Buddhinashat, his intelligence is lost, means he cannot use his intelligence for the purpose of progressing in Krishna consciousness. Rather than using the intelligence for progressing in Krishna consciousness, he uses his intelligence for the purpose of fulfilling his so-called material goals, illusory goals, which cannot satisfy the senses, uh, which cannot satisfy the soul. In this way, one becomes bewildered. And Buddhinashat, from such loss of intelligence, when one's intelligence, real intelligence is lost, and he, instead of planning or working for attaining real goal of life, he hankers after attaining temporary material goals. So from such loss of intelligence, one again falls down, pranashyati. Buddhinashat pranashyati. So this is the eight stages. Uh, Pranashyati means one is again sure to take birth. Again, one will take birth. In this way, life after life, the same things goes on because this dhyayato, contemplation, will again begin as soon as one takes birth because of performing material activities in this birth, the samskaras, impressions, material impressions are generated within his uh, subconscious mind, within his mind. And as soon as he takes birth again, so all those impressions of previous life uh, come on the surface of his consciousness. And he starts again contemplating how to get more money, how to fulfill my material desires, how to get name and fame, how to get how fulfill my goals, and how to enjoy senses. All these things start to come again. And in this way, again, the sangas attachment is generated again, kama, lust, and krodha, and the same cycle goes on. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti brahma, smriti brahmshat buddhi naso. Now, so no matter how much good instruction one gets from reliable sources, it still doesn't, nothing works, and he just goes on and on and on. And in this way, buddhi nasa pranashyati again falls down, means again one more birth. So, like this, the living entity undergoes perpetual birth and death without stoppage. This is known as cycle of birth and death, infinite cycle, infinite loop of birth and death, with no possibility of coming out of it. The only possibility uh, uh, is when such a living entity who is bewildered because of material desires, material goals, some or other, if he comes in contact with a pure devotee, and if he agrees to follow the instructions of a devotee, a sadhu, a pure saint, then he can come out of it. And that transition period is very troublesome. one has to tolerate it, learn to tolerate it. If somebody can just tolerate it, the urges of the mind, vacha vegam, manasa, krodha vegam, jiva vegam, udarupastha vegam, these six urges are very prominent in conditioned soul's heart. So, if somebody who is fortunate enough to get association of a pure devotee, and under his guidance, if somebody can tolerate the urges of mind, speech, tongue, genital, stomach, and vacha vegam, manasa, krodha vegam, mind's urge, anger, urge to speak, urge of anger, urge of mind, urge of tongue, urge of speech, urge of stomach, urge of genital. These six urges are very powerful. If somebody can tolerate it, then he can come out of this non-stop cycle of birth and death, and he can get liberated. Otherwise, there's no possibility. So this eight is step by step. It goes on and bewilders the living entity. Uh, so from anger, complete delusion arises. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Uh, material pool. He just goes on swimming in the material pool of birth and death, taking one birth and death. Sometimes the waves goes high, sometimes waves go down. Going waves high means sometimes he gets the birth of a demigod, and when the waves goes down, means he takes the birth in lower planetary system, animal life. But practically there is no difference. It's the same thing. And it's very interesting. All the in this material existence, all position, have just all the positions are just same thing. It does not make any difference actually. Dry stool, wet stool, what difference is there? No difference. But the bewildered living entity cannot understand this because that's why he's bewildered. It's not possible for him to understand this. Uh, the living entity thinks that the grass is greener on the other side. He always thinks like this. If I can, if I can get good wealth, great, I become very rich, so I'll become happy. Uh, if I become somewhat more beautiful, then I can become happy. If I become very famous in this material world, then I can become happy. But it's all the same thing. If at all this name, fame, beauty, and wealth can give happiness, then why don't we understand those who have all these things? Why aren't they happy? It appears that they are happy, then why they sometimes commit suicide? Why they sometimes just leave all their position? Uh, Everyone knows. Um, just think about it deeply. All of you know, especially those who are in Mumbai, they know what kind of happiness, what kind of miseries a person is undergoing who have a lot of wealth, lot of name and fame, and very beautiful. So, are they really happy? If they are happy, then why they take shelter of this intoxication, smoking, illicit connection? That proves that they are not happy at present. So they want to become more and more happy. But a simple person, a devotee, a simple devotee of the Lord, who may be just earning just to maintain his body, that much he's maybe earning, but he's very fully satisfied simply by getting early in the morning and chanting Hare Krishna, attending his morning programs, and then going for his job, a little job, earning some little amount of money, and then coming back and serving Krishna. So he is far better situated because at least he's not bewildered to the extent of illusory thinking that I can become happy by earning more money and fulfilling my material goals uh, or becoming famous in this material world. Uh, but Maya works like this. So, these are 8 steps towards destruction, and only uh, at the most at the second stage. Only on the first stage it is possible to come out of this cycle, vicious cycle of destruction, vicious cycle which leads towards destruction or fall down again to cycle of birth and death. The first stage, Dhyayato. If one crosses this stage of Dhyayato and goes to second stage, Sangas, attachment, it becomes practically very difficult to come out of it. But if somebody is very determined, so he can also come out of this. But when one goes to third stage, Kama, means he becomes so lusty that he cannot live without it. So that becomes more a difficult task to come out of. So yesterday also we discussed it, that if we at all want not to enter into this very dangerous, fearful cycle of dhyayato, sangas, kama, krodho, sammoha, then smriti vibrama, buddhinasa, and finally pranashyati, destruction. Then what should we do? We should stop at the stage of dhyayato, contemplation. If we aren't able to do it, we should take help from uh, Guru Sadhu Shastra, devotees from the Supreme Lord, and make sure that we come out of this contemplation upon objects of the senses. And these objects of the senses may be anything. For a young boy, a young girl may be object of the senses, uh, or for anybody, his or her material goals may be the object of the senses, upon which one is simply contemplating day and night. Or for somebody, some kind of allurements, some name and fame, desire for name and fame. If we are hankering too much after to get name and fame, and we are desiring too much, so we are also dhyayato vishyan pumsa. So before it goes to second stage, sangaste supajayate, that you develop so much attachment that practically day and night you are thinking about that. This attachment, sangaste supajayate. The second sign of second stage is that one cannot forget it. Day and night, even in dreams, he is thinking about that particular sense object. So that is sangas. And kama means third stage is lust. So it is more means intense. One sometimes shed tears because of being separated from those sense objects. Feels burning sensation within the body. So much deep attachment. That is kama. Then it becomes more difficult to come out of that stage. And kamat krodho vijayate, frustration. So we should check ourselves time to time. Am I developing some kind of attachment for certain material objects? Am I contemplating or desiring or meditating too much upon certain sense objects? So then I am entering into a very uh, dangerous cycle uh, from where it's not possible to come out. So dhyayato, one should work on this and come out of it. And how one can come out of it? That's not very difficult. If just you just replace your dhyana or contemplation from that particular sense object to the Supreme Lord, so means a devotee or a person who is in this first stage of contemplation upon the objects of the senses. So he should increase his meditation or contemplation over the Supreme Lord by chanting more and more, by hearing more about Krishna, by reading more about Krishna, uh, by associating with the devotees. Then it's not difficult. He can immediately, it will not take much time. So without much difficulty, much pain, one can come out of it and be properly situated from Dhyayato Vishyan Pumsa to Dhyayato Krishna. And then attachment for Krishna will increase. Then not Kama, but Prema for Krishna will increase. Isn't it? I hope you are able to understand my language. My language is little rough, and maybe tough also, straightforward. But you can modify it according to your will. Modify doesn't mean that you cut it short, but modify means you can replace some of my strong words with your nice words, but don't change the philosophy. Principle remains the same. Srila Rupa Goswami has given us this direction. Prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastunah mumukshubhi parityago vairagyam falgu kathayate. By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Because even if somebody externally renounces the objects of the senses, but dhyayato is there, contemplation, meditation is there within the mind, within the heart. So artificial uh, rejection of material objects won't work. That's why the most important principle is to replace dhyayato vishayan to dhyayato Krishna. Instead of contemplating, meditating, or desiring over sense objects, one should meditate, contemplate, and desire for Krishna consciousness. Uh, if we make our desire to serve Krishna stronger, if we make our desire to get Krishna in this very life, this very birth, very strong like an elephant, then all those small, tiny, insignificant desires, even in thousands and hundreds and thousands quantity, will not affect our consciousness to go down. So, so they are so-called renunciation. Those who, instead of replacing their contemplation meditation upon Krishna, just artificially try to renounce objects of the senses. Their so-called renunciation is called Falgu. Falgu means less important. It has got no use because eventually they will get entrapped again. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonal is the Lord or the Absolute. Being impersonal cannot eat, whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good tables. A devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So after offering good tables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus everything becomes spiritualized and there is no danger of our downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist therefore cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation. And for this reason, a slight agitation of mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. So, important point in this particular verse is that if somebody doesn't have complete support of Krishna consciousness in devotional service, then his artificial renunciation of objects of the senses will never work for him. He will eventually fall down again into the pool of material existence. Whereas devotees, they not only just reject the sense object, but actually they reject the desires for sense gratification. Instead, they cultivate the service attitude of desiring to serve Krishna. And in this way, they blissfully perform devotional service in Krishna consciousness and become free and liberated with no possibility of getting entangled or entrapped again. And such a devotee, ragadvesu vimuktastu vishayendriya sharan atmavashyar vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. So one who reaches to this stage of perfect Krishna consciousness, so even though he apparently engages in activities of sense gratification, but still he is not at all attached and he is ever liberated. Atma Vashya Vidhe Atma. Uh, Instead of entangling himself, prasadam adhigacchati, he receives the complete mercy of the Lord and travels towards the highest destination. So this verse we'll discuss tomorrow in detail. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. If you have any questions, you can ask. Hare Krishna.